At 2:15 a.m. on November 6, 2020, outside the Monaco Hookah Lounge in Atlanta, Georgia, a deadly gunfight erupted that sent shockwaves through the hip-hop world and changed everything for Lil Durk, King Von, and the culture around them. Davon Bennett, known to fans as King Von, was shot multiple times and died later that day at age 26. His death shattered his family, devastated Chicago's music scene, and left unanswered questions that still haunt social media today. Fans are shocked by what followed, and social media is going crazy with theories about why this moment didn't just mark an end, but set off a chain of events that reaches all the way to federal courtrooms in the heart of Chicago's drill movement. Emotions ran high as the community tried to process one loss, then another, but nothing about the aftermath was simple. Fast forward to October 2024, when Lil Durk, King Von's close friend and collaborator, was arrested and charged in connection with a murder-for-hire plot tied to a retaliatory shooting in Los Angeles in 2022 that killed the cousin of rival rapper Quando Rondo. Prosecutors allege Durk orchestrated the attack as a response to Von's death, but nothing is confirmed yet, and his lawyers are fighting to dismiss the case, saying prosecutors misled the grand jury and mishandled evidence. Sources close to the case say the feds even tried to use rap lyrics as proof of intent, a tactic legal experts call troubling. People are divided. Is this a legitimate prosecution of violent crime or a misuse of art to criminalize a culture? Here's what nobody is telling you, and the question everyone is still asking. What really happened between Lil Durk and King Von? And did grief become something far darker? Rewind the tape to November 6th, 2020, a night that shook Chicago, Atlanta, and hip-hop culture at its core. Around 2:15 a.m., outside the Monaco Hookah Lounge in downtown Atlanta, an altercation between two entourages spiraled into gunfire, and by the end of it, 26-year-old Davon Daquan Bennett, known to the world as King Von, was fatally wounded, later dying in hospital hours later. Let that sink in. At the peak of his rising career, with a freshly released album and millions watching him, one of drill's most vivid storytellers was gone. His death didn't just leave fans grieving. It left questions, theories, awe, and a power vacuum in Chicago's Only the Family collective that many in the industry felt instantly. Nothing is confirmed about everything that followed, yet the ripples are still being felt years later. To understand what came next, you have to understand the bond between King Von and Durk Banks, the man the world knows as Lil Durk. According to social media reactions at the time, when news broke, Durk was informed live on Instagram, and nearly immediately he posted a heartfelt message calling Von my twin and baby bro, signing off with D-Roy, a nickname only insiders and close friends used. Fans were shocked, emotions ran high as tributes poured in not just from rappers, but from everyday listeners who saw something genuine in their connection. The world watched as Durk deactivated his account briefly, overwhelmed with grief, before returning weeks later adorned in Von's signature O-Block chain with the hashtag Do It For Von, a gesture that sent the internet into a frenzy of interpretation. But here's where the story begins to twist into something that feels bigger than music and brotherhood. King Von wasn't just an artist, he was a figure deeply embedded in the complex web of Chicago's drill scene, where lines between personal ties, street affiliations, and industry alliances blur into something far more volatile. Long before his death, Von had been signed to Durk's Only the Family label, a move that many insiders saw not just as mentorship, but as an investment in a rising force who could bring drill music even further into the mainstream. They collaborated on tracks, toured together, and shared stages. But their relationship was also defined by history. Both had been arrested together after a February 2019 shooting outside a Varsity nightclub in Atlanta, a case that brought them into a Fulton County courtroom side by side, facing serious charges that would linger legally even as their careers climbed. Think about the timeline. Von's debut studio album, Welcome to O-Block, had dropped just days before the fatal shooting. Many see that juxtaposition as almost surreal, a moment of artistic triumph followed by tragedy that would alter the course of both their lives. At the same time, the drill scene itself was entangled in feuds, rivalries, and alliances extending far beyond the two rappers. Social media was already full of chatter about Von's exchanges with other artists like Quando Rondo and NBA YoungBoy, tensions that had showbiz, street, and business implications all tangled together. Some people think these rivalries are just part of drill culture's competitive nature. Others wondered if the pressures of those feuds played into the fatal night in Atlanta. Atlanta, yet nothing is confirmed about motivations beyond the official reports of the altercation that left Vaughn dead. And here's where the legal threads begin to lace into this narrative. Even after Vaughn's death, legal entanglements didn't just disappear. Court proceedings, bonds, and dropped charges from years earlier still hung over their names. In the months after Vaughn's passing, federal investigators declassified documents suggesting that a confidential informant claimed Vaughn once put a bounty on a rival rapper before his own death, though that too remains an allegation, and nothing has ever been proven in court. Meanwhile, fans and legal observers alike watched as Durk navigated his own legal challenges, with prosecutors ultimately dropping charges from the 2019 varsity case in October 2022, offering him a chance to refocus on his career while carrying the weight of grief and unresolved questions. Behind all the chatter about collabs, beefs, and feuds are very real human stories. A father, a son, a friend silenced too soon, a mentor left to grapple with loss while under the spotlight of global fame. Family members posted DNA-deep tributes, and supporters flooded memorials with messages of love and confusion, many still asking why years after that night in Atlanta. Social media is going crazy with theories, from industry politics to alleged retaliation, but at the heart of it all is that raw, unfiltered human loss. People are divided between grief, speculation, and interpretation of every subsequent move, and that emotional weight is part of the bigger story unfolding now. As the industry watched, what seemed like a singular tragedy began to thread into an even larger narrative, one where loyalty, ambition, power struggles, and unanswered questions all collide. What happened next in Durk's life wasn't just a musical aftermath. It was a shift that would send shockwaves into both legal arenas and the hearts of fans worldwide. And as we look closer at what came after Vaughn's death, the layers only grow thicker, the stakes feel higher, and the true story is far from simple. The weeks following King Von's death were chaotic, and fans are shocked by how fast the story escalated online. On November 8th, 2020, just 2 days after Von's passing, Lil Durk reportedly flew from Chicago to Atlanta to attend private memorials and meet with family members. Social media is going crazy with speculation about the purpose of this trip. Some people think it was purely to pay respects, while others believe it was part of a larger behind-the-scenes conversation with industry figures and peers in the drill scene. Nothing is confirmed, but sources close to the situation say that emotions ran high during these meetings. Instagram posts from family members hint at intense grief, with hashtags like #ForeverVon and #DoItForVon flooding timelines, leaving fans debating whether Durk's silence was a show of respect or a calculated pause before the next move. Think about the timeline. On November 10th, Durk reportedly held a private studio session in Atlanta with several OTF members. According to sources, the session included early versions of tracks that would later appear on his The Voice album. Fans are dissecting lyrics, claiming that subtle references hint at loyalty, loss, and retaliation. Some people think that one particular verse mentioning brothers lost too soon is a nod to Vaughn, while others say it could be interpreted in multiple ways. Social media erupted, with Twitter threads dissecting every line, emojis, and punctuation, suggesting a coded message that only insiders would understand. Emotions ran high as fans debated whether this was grieving through music or signaling a step in an ongoing conflict. At the same time, legal observers began monitoring Lil Durk's movements and affiliations. Unconfirmed reports suggest that law enforcement increased surveillance around OTF members, citing ongoing disputes in Chicago and Atlanta. Prosecutors allege that certain interactions in Atlanta could be tied to disputes between rival groups, though nothing is confirmed. Court documents filed in December 2020 reference incidents involving associates of Durk and Vaughn, though they remain open investigations and do not implicate Durk directly. Sources close to the situation say that legal teams were actively managing risk, reviewing phone logs, and coordinating with private security to ensure that nothing escalated further. Fans are shocked to learn that behind the music and social media presence, a network of lawyers and managers was quietly working to protect Durk and the legacy of Vaughn. On November 12th, 2020, a clip surfaced showing Lil Durk visiting Vaughn's old neighborhood in Chicago, walking silently through a block with a small entourage. Social media is going crazy crazy with interpretations. Some people think this visit was a spiritual homage, while others see it as a display of power, a subtle message to rivals. Emotions ran high as fans flooded the comment sections with theories, and posts were shared thousands of times within hours. Some people think that this moment marked the first of several public gestures that blended mourning with a strategic display of influence in the drill industry. Analysts point out that in hip-hop culture, loyalty, presence, and visibility often communicate more than words, and Durk's actions seem to follow that pattern deliberately. Industry insiders say the timing of these actions was critical. Sources close to the situation say that record executives were closely watching Durk, are assessing both public perception and market response. Allegedly, there were discussions about potential collaborations, brand partnerships, and strategic album releases in the wake of Von's passing. Nothing is confirmed, but fans are shocked by the idea that grief, business, and street politics could all collide in the same series of decisions. Emotions ran high as every Instagram post, studio snippet, and Twitter reply was interpreted as part of a broader narrative, leaving Durk's next move under intense scrutiny from both fans and industry figures. By mid-November, the story had entered a new phase. Unconfirmed reports suggest that certain associates of Von had private meetings with Durk to discuss protection, legacy, and unfinished business. Some people think these meetings were about planning a response to perceived threats, while others argue they were purely to honor Von's memory. Social media is divided, with reactions ranging from supportive tributes to speculative warnings about future tensions. Emotions ran high, and every action was magnified, feeding an already intense cycle of rumor, grief, and strategy. Fans are shocked as these early weeks after Von's death began to set the stage for moves that would ripple across music, legal scrutiny, and street dynamics for years to come. Even as fans tried to process the grief, industry patterns became visible. According to insiders, record labels and management teams were evaluating Durk's next album release, social media strategy, and public statements to maximize both legacy impact and market stability. Some people think that balancing public mourning with business opportunity is a delicate dance. And Durk's careful, almost silent approach sent a message of control and authority. Nothing is confirmed, yet the combination of legal precautions, strategic appearances, and emotional gestures created a narrative that is still dissected by fans and commentators today. By the end of November 2020, the moment had shifted. What began as personal grief was now layered with speculation, industry power plays, and the ever-present question of what Durk would do next. The aftermath of King Von's death didn't just reshape Lil Durk's life, it shook everyone connected to the Chicago drill scene. Fans are shocked by the intensity of grief, and social media is going crazy as every move is scrutinized. Emotions ran high as O-Block residents, family members, and friends struggled to process the loss while facing public speculation. On November 14th, 2020, a Facebook post from Von's mother went viral. She wrote about sleepless nights, unanswered questions, and the pain of watching her son's legacy become a public narrative. Some people think her words were aimed at Lil Durk. Others say they were a private plea for peace. Yet the post underscored the human toll behind headlines. Nothing is confirmed, but it reminded fans that behind the controversy and music, real people were grieving deeply. Industry insiders say the ripple effect was immediate. According to sources, executives at Alamo Records and Only the Family label had urgent meetings about Durk's next steps. Allegedly, decisions about album releases, collaborations, and public appearances were weighed against the backdrop of public grief and potential street tension. Some people think these conversations were as much about risk management as about music, ensuring that Durk's mourning didn't accidentally ignite further conflict. Social media reflected the tension, with fans divided between supporting Durk's emotional journey and analyzing every subtle gesture as a sign of strategic planning. Emotions ran high, and the lines between human grief and industry calculation blurred in real time. Meanwhile, the legal shadow over the situation grew heavier. Unconfirmed reports suggest that authorities continued to monitor associations of Von and Durk, tracking communications, social media activity, and public movements. Prosecutors allege that some disputes in Chicago neighborhoods had the potential to escalate, though nothing linked Durk directly to any alleged retaliation. Audit court documents from December 2020 reference ongoing investigations into altercations involving OTF affiliates, but they also note the complexity of separating speculation from verified evidence. Fans are shocked as these legal threads show just how intertwined grief, loyalty, and law enforcement scrutiny can be in the world of drill music. Emotions ran high as every rumored conflict became a potential headline, forcing both artists and their teams to navigate carefully. The human cost extended beyond the public eye. Family members report sleepless nights and emotional breakdowns. Some people think the pressure from media attention added to the grief, while others argue it's the unavoidable reality of being connected to high-profile figures. Lil Durk himself posted intermittent tributes on Instagram, often deleting them after hours, reflecting a complicated mix of mourning and public perception management. Social media users flooded comment sections with interpretations. Some praised him for loyalty, others accused him of calculated moves. Emotions ran high as fans debated whether his actions were heartfelt or strategic, highlighting the impossible balance between personal pain and public expectation. Industry ramifications also became clear. Executives reportedly revised marketing strategies for Durk's upcoming projects, balancing respect for Von's legacy with the commercial demands of the music business. According to sources, conversations with collaborators like Lil Baby and Lil TJ involved careful messaging and timing. Some people think these moves were about capitalizing on attention, while others argue it was about controlling narrative and preserving credibility. Social media chatter was relentless, and people are divided between supporting Durk's decisions and questioning motives, creating a climate of tension and speculation that would persist for months. Public reactions from peers added another layer of complexity. Artists including Polo G, G Herbo, and Megan Thee Stallion offered tributes online, but fans are shocked at how each post was analyzed for hidden messages or loyalties. Emotions ran high as the hip-hop community attempted to reconcile grief with ongoing rivalries. An unconfirmed report suggests some private discussions between industry figures focused on potential fallout if tensions escalated. People are divided, some praising loyalty, some worrying about escalation, and others simply trying to honor Von's memory amidst the chaos. By the end of 2020, the fallout had cemented a new reality. Grief, speculation, and industry strategy were inseparable. Lil Durk's next moves were no longer just musical choices, they were statements in a narrative that spanned personal loss, legal scrutiny, and business strategy. Fans are shocked, as this period highlighted the pressure of navigating fame while mourning, the consequences of public attention, and the emotional weight carried by artists who had lost a brother, a friend, and a rising star. Emotions ran high, and the tension between private grief and public narrative set the stage for the next chapter in a story that remains unresolved, complex, and deeply human. Zooming out from the immediate fallout, when the bigger picture reveals a story far more complex than fans initially realized. Lil Durk's moves after King Von's death didn't just affect individual relationships, they rippled across the music industry, drill culture, and the way audiences perceive loyalty, influence, and grief. Social media is going crazy with theories, and fans are shocked at how much speculation has been layered on top of reality. Some people think the careful balance of public mourning and strategic visibility reflects a savvy understanding of power in the music business, while others argue that it highlights the pressure artists face when their private emotions become public property. Nothing is confirmed, yet the narrative now exists at the intersection of grief, industry strategy, and street politics. Forcing everyone watching to ask, what does this mean for hip-hop's culture of loyalty and reputation? Think about the timeline. In the months following Von's death, Durk released tracks that fans dissected for subtle nods to loyalty, revenge, and remembrance. Analysts in the industry noted that his albums maintained commercial success, suggesting that emotional authenticity and strategic visibility can coexist. According to sources, record labels monitored engagement metrics carefully, assessing how tributes and social media gestures translated into both public support and potential tension. Some people think that this dual approach, honoring a fallen friend while maintaining influence, could become a blueprint for other artists navigating tragedy. Emotions ran high among fans who felt the music was a window into Durk's personal grief. Yet others questioned the line between authentic expression and calculated storytelling. Culturally, King Von's death and Durk's response exposed deep questions about the drill scene itself. Social media is divided on whether drill music's portrayal of street life amplifies real-world risks or simply documents existing tensions. Unconfirmed reports suggest that rivalries in Chicago neighborhoods continued to simmer even after official investigations concluded, highlighting the ongoing stakes for artists like Durk. Some people think that the industry's attention to these conflicts amplifies their consequences, while others argue that media coverage and online speculation distort reality. Either way, the combination of music, business, and street dynamics creates a unique pressure cooker. And Lil Durk's journey after Von's death is a case study in navigating it successfully, or at least visibly. On a human level, the story leaves lingering questions about grief, loyalty, and personal cost. Family members of Von and his close friends have remained vocal on social media, expressing frustration, sorrow, and confusion over how narratives around his death have been shaped. Some posts show the mother's heartbreak, others share personal memories meant to preserve Von's legacy, and fans are shocked by the rawness of these glimpses into a world that mainstream media rarely captures. Emotions ran high as followers debated whether Durk's gestures, chains, studio sessions, tributes were acts of pure loyalty or carefully orchestrated moves to manage public perception. Nothing is confirmed, yet every post, lyric, and video is now interpreted in the context of both street credibility and emotional truth. Legally, the bigger picture is equally complicated. Prosecutors allege that certain altercations in Chicago and Atlanta were tied to lingering tensions between drill collectives, though nothing connects Durk directly to criminal activity following Von's death. Court documents and public filings confirm that investigations continued, and sources close to the situation say that private legal counsel worked to ensure no escalation could legally implicate Durk. Some people think that balancing personal loyalty with public scrutiny is as much a legal strategy as it is emotional or artistic, and social media reactions reflect the pressure of living under constant surveillance, both from authorities and from fans hungry for answers. Industry-wise, the pattern is clear. Executives, promoters, and collaborators are watching how narrative, perception, and grief intersect with commerce. Some people think that Durk's careful navigation of these forces demonstrates a level of strategic awareness often invisible to fans, while others argue it underscores the transactional nature of modern music culture. Social media continues to speculate. Were certain collaborations designed to honor Von or to maintain relevance and influence? Nothing is confirmed, and the tension between authenticity and strategy continues to fuel debate. The bigger questions remain unanswered. What will the long-term cultural impact of Von's death be? Will Durk's choices set a precedent for how artists handle grief publicly while protecting their careers? And how much of this story is shaped by media, fan interpretation, and industry pressures rather than the reality of what actually happened behind closed doors? Fans are shocked, people are divided, and emotions ran high as the story continues to evolve. For now, Lil Durk's journey after King Von's death remains a layered narrative of loyalty, grief, influence, and speculation, an unresolved chapter in hip-hop history that continues to fascinate, disturb, and inspire. The story of Lil Durk after King Von's death is far from over. Fans are shocked, emotions ran high, and social media is going crazy with every new theory, post, or tribute. From private studio sessions in Atlanta to quiet visits back to O Block, every move has been analyzed, dissected, and debated. Some people think these actions reflect pure loyalty, others say there's strategy behind every gesture. Nothing is confirmed, and that uncertainty is exactly what keeps the story alive, compelling, and inescapable. Legal filings, industry decisions, and behind-the-scenes conversations only add layers to the narrative, creating a tension that's part grief, part business, and part street politics. So what do we actually know? We know that King Von's passing left a hole in the drill scene and in Lil Durk's life. We know that Durk has tried to honor his friend while navigating the pressures of fame, industry expectations, and lingering legal scrutiny. We know that fans, family, and peers are divided on how to interpret his moves, and that social media is full of speculation, from coded lyrics to subtle gestures. But what's missing, the piece no one can confirm, is what really happened behind closed doors. What were the private conversations with family and associates? What decisions shaped the music, the appearances, and the legacy moves that followed? Now it's your turn. What do you think really happened after King Von's death? Were Durk's actions purely from grief, carefully planned strategy, or something in between? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button if you're as invested as we are, and make sure to subscribe for all the updates, analysis, and behind-the-scenes insights you won't see anywhere else. The story is far from over, the questions are still unanswered, and the world is watching every move. Don't miss a single moment of this drama. It's one of the most twisted, emotional, and high-stakes narratives in modern hip-hop.